So welcome to Boxing Media Hub, and you are here with me and Simon. Simon, we've got another one. Robert Helenius tested positive. We'll read out the statements first, and then he can get the telling off from Simon and all the rest of it. Matchroom. Obviously, the other day. Today, the Voluntary Anti-Doping Association, VADA, voluntary, has informed Matchroom and the British Boxing Board of Control that Robert Helenius has returned an adverse analytical finding as part of a random anti-doping protocol. Helenius was voluntarily tested on Friday, the 11th of August, before the heavyweight fighter's defeat to Anthony Joshua in London on Saturday, 12th of August. The result was made known to Matchroom today, which I believe was yesterday. Matchroom defers to the relevant regulatory authorities on next steps. We continue to support voluntary anti-doping testing. We are committed to promoting a clean and fair sport for all athletes. We will not be making any further comment. Then, Robert Helenius, or the team, should we say, I want to say something very clear in my own words right now, with absolutely no exception. I did not use any performance enhancement now or ever. Not that anyone's ever come out and said they have. I have been tested my entire career. I was just told that I tested positive for the presence of a non-steroid substance in my system, and I wanted to send an immediate direct message to Anthony Joshua and boxing fans that I didn't cheat and never would. I volunteered to work with VADA and the Boxing Board of Control to do whatever it takes to clear my name. Same as before, isn't it? So we've had Dillian White pull out with whatever time it was, barely any. Robert Helenius obviously fought, a week before. It'd be interesting to see if there was any drug testing that flares up from that first fight, to be honest, or whether he took it for this fight. Interesting.
I think that's the thing for me. Brings it into contention is that fight the week beforehand. Do you know what I mean? It casts a shadow over that, and I think this fight as well. It's inherently dangerous. Chisora, what was he saying? If you're on those performance enhanced drugs and you really hurt somebody, or could put them into hospital, then you really have got blood on your hands here. So you've got to be really, you've got to be really careful, with this kind of stuff. And it's a cut and paste. It's the same. Almost sounds like word for word.
The replacement has done exactly what the last guy that was pulled out for has done.
I just think as well, you've got to be careful as well and judge. Not to judge until all the facts are in. I'm sure there'll be more coming out in the wash, but is there an element? Could there be an element that this guy, there's something that he's taken outside of his diet? That he's not checked the small print and that's come up, and that could be, enhancing. Could there be any sympathy there, or is this something that actually, is we'll never know. If it is calculated and what have you. But the trouble is now.
Did he get that fight? The week before, did he take that fight? He won that fight, and then he had an opportunity for Joshua, and he thought, right, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this on my own accord. And I'm not saying he has, but it's a much bigger fight, isn't it? He was fighting a guy that was 4-0, who was literally on the build up to his career, which I don't know why he was fighting that sort of guy anyway. And he just thought, I need something to enhance here. We've heard about meat situations before and eggs. And now this has kind of happened. Chris has come in and he said, you just couldn't ride it. It's one of those, isn't it? You've taken a guy out for that reason and brought a guy in based on the same reason. I'm not accepting any excuses. Anyone who fails a drug test should be banned permanently from the sport. they're responsible for what goes into their body. Sick of saying it. But they won't be banned because it's a name that brings money. And when is it going to stop? It's going to take a fighter to innocently get seriously injured or worse to deal with this properly. It's disgusting. And this is the reaction, isn't it? Boxing's been dragged through the mud.
For me, it's that if it's something that's calculated, then there's processes and there's procedures in place where he'll get what's coming to him. Do you know what I mean? Because we can't have anybody that cheats. Has something slipped in? Or like the interesting thing for me was like you've got to be so careful with your diet these days. And I don't know if you saw the the fight last week with Joshua. Conor McGregor comes in and gives him that. Yeah,
I
just think to myself, could not wanting to make any excuses, but could somebody have given him a drink? I remember Tyson Fury when he fought, was it against Deontay? Somebody offered him a bottle of water. No, I'm only having the glass of water that's my camp because it could be spiked.
All I'll say with Joshua is, did he really have much of a choice when McGregor had almost tipped it into his mouth anyway?
But the thing is, Joel, if it happens, it happens and it's gone, and you're done. I think for me here, it's like, look, anybody that is fails a drug test has to get the penalty and the punishment. We are all human, we're all fallible, things happen, do you know what I mean? But when you have combat sports, you've got to treat it a little bit differently, and this has to be properly done. And I think you've got this failed result, it now needs to be looked into, really, really investigated, so that the appropriate outcome it gets delivered, basically.
Everyone should have almost the same sentence, the same ban, shouldn't they? Everyone should go, you've cheated at the end of the day, regardless of what it is that's gone into your system, you've cheated. And I think, obviously we're not saying, this has got to be looked into first. Don't get me wrong. We're not just pointing the finger at Robert Helenius here. We're pointing it as a generic thing. If people cheat, then there's no room in the sport for this, because it just can't happen. Like Chris was saying, has it got to get to a point when someone gets badly injured or dies for them to really take notice of this? I spoke to another guy today and he said, Joel, they're all on the juice. It's just a case of who gets caught. And when situations like this start occurring, you start thinking it is happening all the time now. It's so dangerous, isn't it? But it's down to them, isn't it? It's down to them to make decisions. Do you think it should be a ban from the sport indefinitely?
It's an interesting one. There's definitely a view that should be the case. There's definitely a view for a more, periodic ban. I'm just conscious that everybody is different, and don't get me wrong, there needs to be an appropriate punishment. But let's say you're an 18 or 19-year-old individual that's done this. Yep, you're young, you're immature, you make a mistake. Should that person then pay the penalty for the rest of their career? Look, there'll always be that mark next to their name. But if somebody does, what's the word?
Well, let's look at Conor Benn. Yeah. Conor Benn, young. This is flagged up in his career. Canelo was the same situation. He was young when it was the steak incident. He's managed to sort of overcome almost. There's people that won't forget, don't get me wrong, but he's managed to overcome. But Conor, it just seems people are just going at him, even though the current situation, and now that's kind of turned the corner as well. But it's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is where it needs to be looked into properly. You know what I mean? It's like, you'll never know, but there needs to be proper penalties to prevent this from happening in the future that are serious. And what could they be? Ultimately, yes, there's going to be banned from sport, but is there any financial impact? Could there be an impact on the purse? Or something like that? That's kind of held in abeyance until a drugs test is done, and if not, that then goes into for good causes. Would that be a deterrent? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, here, you see it in different sports. It is that the bottom line is the money. And if you don't get that sorted, are you really going to have a deterrent? Because people will always try and get that advantage, as we've seen through different sports across time. You know what I mean? So many years, people want to get that advantage or beat the system, and it's unfair, it's dangerous, but everybody is human, and we've got to treat this with the respect it deserves.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll end with Chris. I'm all for giving fighters second chances, but there's White who's done it on numerous times. And one of my favourite quotes, I will use it: leopards don't change their spots. They do it once, they do it again.
I think that's absolutely fair comment. I think, once, absolutely. But then when it comes that second or third time, then, you do need to look at it then even more strongly and more differently, because, you have to learn those lessons. You can a mistake is a mistake, but if it
flags up more than once, I think they've got to go. In my opinion, because you've almost been given that second chance when second chances shouldn't really happen, and then you've done it again. And this is what second or third time.
There still needs to be that period of suspension, be that 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it needs to be, the severity and what have you. But then, as you say, if you've done the crime, done the time, then you can cut. If you do it then again, come on. You've got to. If you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You cannot. You cannot continue with that. You're tarnished. And that's the sad thing. And I think look, hypothetically, if these statements are absolutely true and both White and Helenius have not done nothing wrong, then what is causing these? There's is there diet stuff? Is there stuff? Is there an issue? Does there need to be some reform of VADA as well? There's loads of stuff there, because also you don't want to have an athlete who has voluntarily done drugs testing, lived, a pure period, nothing's gone in, everything's been in 100% natural, but because of some combination or something like that, has it come out? I'm not saying that's what's happened here. It could have been what's happened here, but again, it seems to be there's a regularity of these things as well. Can we get this investigated? Because it's not great for the sport, and I want to see a good fight. I don't want to see something that's tarnished.
Well, you think this is White, Baumgardner, and Helenius all in what
a week?
Yeah, it's all sort of come out that sort of 2 week period. It's madness. But yeah, let us know in the comments, people, how you see this one. Let us know about the ban situation, because that's what me and Simon are interested in. How do you see it in regards to if someone fails a drug test, regardless, do you think they should be banned? Chris was saying, he's all for second chances, but if you're doing it again, for me, that's not unlucky. That's a case of it's happened again, especially multiple times for some people. So let us know in the comments. Simon, you're a star as always. Thanks for coming on, mate. But yeah, we're looking forward to the fight tonight, Usyk versus Dubois. So yeah, hopefully looking forward to a good scrap there. And yeah, I'll see you again soon, Simon.
See you later, mate. Take care.
Thank you. Cheers. Have some of this.